Hi everybody, my name is Bazikyan, and in this month's video we thought we would continue having some fun with Dr. Bones and talk about the difference between a will and a trust here in California. I am a certified specialist in estate planning, trust, and probate administration as an attorney here in California. And so I like to use the concept of a basket to describe what a trust is to my clients. So I thought it would be fun to kind of take that same concept and illustrate it with Dr. Bones. The question I get all the time is, what's the difference between a will and a trust? And we've done similar videos in the past, so you could check those out for more details. But essentially in California, if you pass away and you have done no planning whatsoever, no will, no trust, whatever is physically owned by you, contained in your pockets, for example, this is an illustration of things that are owned in Dr. Bones' name. Anything that's owned by you, physically yours, goes through a court process known as probate. If Dr. Bones had gone ahead and prepared a will, your standard last will and testament, it would still go through the same process. So all of her assets would still end up in probate court. The difference between not having a will and having a will is going to be the judge will actually review what she has written in her will and follow her instructions in the will document, versus not having a will. The judge is actually going to look at the law, and the law is going to tell the judge who gets what. That's hers. So taking it one step further, if she has done a revocable trust in addition to that will, and it's a pour-over will, so if she has a trust and not just a will, the process looks very different. With a trust, what we're doing is we're creating essentially a separate legal entity. So I like to describe it as a basket. We're creating a basket, a separate legal entity. It's separate from you as a person. See, it's not attached to her. It's separated from her. So we're creating this basket, and we're taking everything that she owns in her name, and we are transferring it into this basket, this trust. So for example, her trust basket is going to look very different from mine. You know, she's a doctor, I'm an attorney, we might have different number of kids, different types of provisions, different types of assets, but hers looks like this. I want to illustrate the fact that each basket is different because each trust is custom to your family's structure, wishes, assets, net worth, tax liability. So many different factors come into play when deciding what type of trust I'm going to create for a client. Let's assume that we've created this trust, and what we're going to do is take the assets that she owns in her name. So we're going to take, let's say, her bank account. She has a savings account, she's got some money in it. We're going to take that bank account and we're going to transfer the ownership of it to the trust name. So we're going to plop that into the trust. She has a Flesh and Bones Beauty shareholder interest. So she has a company, a corporation, that she has 25 shares of. And so we're going to take that share and we're going to assign it over into the trust. So we're going to make sure that her corporate interest is also in the trust. What I do want to be careful of here is, if this is some sort of medical corporation or professional corporation, this trust is going to look very different from a person who doesn't have a professional license. So if you're someone that has a professional license, medical, legal, you need to be very careful the type of trust that you create. You want to make sure that it can actually contain your corporate shares in that professional corporation. So any corporate shares, any corporations that she has, also has to go into this basket. So we change ownership from her name to the corporate name. She has some stock in Tesla. Good for you, Dr. Bones. So we would take Tesla stock. So if she has, let's say, a portfolio at Ameritrade or some other company, Chase, Wells Fargo, it doesn't matter. She has a stock brokerage account. We would want her to change the name from Dr. Bones, and we would want her to list the trust as a new owner of that account, so that if Dr. Bones is very, very sick in the future and she can't handle her own finances, her trustee will be able to jump in and manage these assets. Or if she's passed away, the trustee will step in and manage these assets without having to go to court. She has a house, so she has a home, transferring title to the trust. have to make sure you transfer title to the trust. It's very important, and the reason I want to highlight this right now is because a lot of you are refinancing, and with refinances, what actually ends up happening is mortgage companies some of them don't like the fact that it's in a trust. It makes their job a little bit more difficult. So to make their job easier, they'll take it out of the trust, do the refinance, and promise to put it back in, but sometimes they forget to put it back in. So it just stays out here in her name again, and then she dies. And then I have to do what we call cleanup work and go to court and convince a judge to allow it to go back where it was. So you want to be very careful if you're refinancing and you have your assets in a trust. Make sure when you're done with your refinance, you ask them to confirm that the ownership of the property is in the trust. So she has a house, we'll put it in there, and any other properties that she has, we would also transfer over into the trust. She owns a little cafe that she's an investor in. So we would make sure whatever type of corporation or LLC or partnership interest this is, we would also make sure that we're transferring that interest into the trust. And it looks like that's it. Of course, all of her personal property would be assigned over to the trust as well. And the trust would be able to handle all of these assets. So now, if she were to pass away, the things that are in here stay in here. And we already have instructions on what happens. And she has nothing in her pockets anymore. It's empty, which means that there is nothing left to go to probate court, and we have effectively avoided probate, and that's what we call probate avoidance. It's the steps that we take to make sure that she's pre-planned so that at her death, her family doesn't have to fall into the court system. Everything is already done ahead of time, it's in a basket, and she's already left instructions for who the new person is that gets to hold on to this basket and what they do with the assets inside. Do they take it and donate it? Do they take it and give it to her kids? What is it that she wants done? And all of that we'll discuss in a different video. So we hope you liked this illustration of how trust funding and the difference between a will and a trust works. And hopefully you guys will leave a comment and let us know if you did so that we can do more illustrative videos for you. Otherwise, we'll catch you next month. Thanks for watching.